Two, three. Welcome to the latest edition of the Monty's Men podcast. I'm Chris Lowe. I got Eddie and Steve with me, and today we got a special guest, Alex Ortiz, down in Miami, Florida. Guys, how are you?
Doing well. Doing really well. Glad to be talking with y'all tonight after another disappointing weekend.
I'm doing okay. It's early doors for Sevilla. Disappointed in the result, sure, but it's still early doors, so I'm not that concerned yet.
Right.
How about you guys?
Yeah, Alex, how's the weather down in Miami, man?
It's good. Super humid. August isn't the best month to be down here, but weather aside, I would say my concern level is probably a little bit higher with the team. But it's nice to be on one of these with you guys. So appreciate the invite.
Yeah, man, thanks for joining. I know we've been trying to work this out for a while, and we were going to get you on kind of at the end of the last season and talk about Lopetegui. It just never kind of worked out. But glad to get you on now, and we can still talk about Lopetegui because he's still here. I don't know that everybody thought that was going to happen, but he is still here. Guys, we recorded last week, and a lot changed. Well, maybe not a lot changed, but something very fast happened in typical Monty fashion. He made a signing. I don't know what day that was announced. Monday? Was it like Monday, Tuesday? I don't even remember. But Tanguy Nianzou, French 20-year-old center back, comes in from Bayern. Sevilla paying right around 20 million euros for him. Tall guy, pretty nimble, looked like. Anyway, he played 22 games last year for Bayern, but only 876 minutes total, and then 28 total matches for Bayern over the last two seasons. So last season he scored one and assisted one. So I think you could call him more of a prospect than anything. But for this team, I think it's going to be more of a prospect, and we saw that because he was immediately in the starting lineup, guys. So it shows you what a need we had at center back, and also we needed something to fill in there, and Mark again was not ready, so he did make the bench but didn't play, so not quite ready there, and he might struggle finding some playing time with these the two center backs with Rekik getting on the scoreboard. So guys, what do you think about the new guys play? We'll start with Eddie.
I think when you play at these elite teams, you kind of know how to play the possession style, right? Building from the back. These young center backs already know how to play that way. So especially him coming from Bayern, he seemed ready already to start 2 days after he was signed. And it's surprising that he started before Marcao, but he must have been ready physically to slot right in. So it didn't look too bad. And it looks like we're going to get some good things in terms of building from the back, because he could also play at DM. So he might have a bit of that midfielder's touch as well. So it's looked good so far for the tank, as we like to call him now.
Yeah, Steve, impressed by the new fella?
I am, yeah. I think it was a gamble to start him, and it was a gamble that I did not expect us to take, but I was happy to see it. Overall, he looked good. What I really appreciated was how eager he looked to be on the pitch. Like, he looked like he was really enjoying himself out there, and that's cool to see. There were times where he was a little bit out of sorts, but I kind of chalked that up to only having one training session with this team and not necessarily knowing a whole lot about, like, he probably doesn't even know the names of everybody on the pitch right now. Like, to be completely honest, I kind of liken it to Tecatito's debut, and I'm sure we'll talk about him coming up here. But the debut that he had back in January wasn't a detriment to the team. He wasn't super impactful. He played well, but what we did see were flashes of what really could be and what could come in the future, and that talent that they bring. And so I think that we can kind of look at this the same way. Like there's a lot to get excited about with Tank here, I guess Tangi, or however we want to, like, there's got to be a nickname out there, Tangi Nianzu. But yeah, no,
I think
it was
you'll
good to
earn
see.
that nickname, maybe. Hopefully. Yeah,
He even
seems
got on
like
the
a good
ball.
deal, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what our buyout clause is, but Byron does have a buyback option that is, I think, 50 million euros for the first year, and then increases to 55 million euros next year if they want to buy him back. And then they also have a sell-on fee of, I think it's 20%, if I'm not.
It's like 20 or 22%, something like that.
Yeah, something
I
like
don't
that,
know.
right? So,
if you look at all the
could be a good
forums,
investment.
If you look at all the forums, all the Bayern fans are convinced that they ripped us off, and all the Sevilla fans are convinced that we ripped them off. So I think that is the perfect example of a great deal. Then, if both sides feel like they got the better side of the deal, then I think that's perfect. Perfect happy medium.
Sounds right. Alex, what do you think about the new kid?
I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked really comfortable on the ball, playing the ball out of the back. I agree with Eddie. I think you can kind of tell that when these kids come from big clubs, they're much more used to dominating the game, playing the ball out of the back, defending with a lot of space. And so I liked the signing when it came in, just more so the concept of him. I had never watched him play, but I thought with an aging squad, we really needed guys that are younger, athletic, and that have that possibility of a sell somewhere, down along the road. I hate to even say that because he just started at Sevilla, but that's kind of the reality. It's the club model, right? So I thought it was a very necessary signing. Hopefully it works out. I thought he had a really impressive debut, especially considering he barely trained with the team. And I have to say one more thing. In typical Munchie fashion, I love the fact that it was a signing that nobody knew about. I mean, we've been linked with 200 center backs since June. I mean, everybody and their mother has been linked to Sevilla, and of course, the deal gets done in 48 hours from the time it's first rumored, and nobody had even heard of him. So I loved that tidbit.
Right, and slots in with Rekik and Bono there. Something to note: he doesn't speak Spanish. He is French, so he slotted in right by Rekik and Bono, who both speak French. So kind of helps with that transition, I think. There, I don't know if Fernando does or not, but I'm sure that helped get him a little accustomed quicker. With that French connection. Something to note that Godelli didn't even make the bench, and there was no rumors of injury or whatnot. So not exactly sure what's going on with him. I don't know if you guys heard anything since the game, but I mean, there were rumors that he was on the market and looking to be sold prior to the match, but nothing, no new details that I've heard of anyway. So just something of note there. For the game, I mean, we saw a lineup, a different midfield pairing this time, right? We've got Fernando, Jordan, and Oliver Torres starting with Papu on the wing. Papu having to start, Steve mentioned it. We got our first major injury already. Jesus Corona Tecatito went down with an unfortunate ankle breakage. I think he broke his fibia and some ligaments as well. So he's going to be out at least, I think they're saying 5 to 6 months, more than likely. Going to miss the World Cup. What was
reports were we might not even register him. We might unregister him for this season, and then he wouldn't even be available until next year, which would be unfortunate. But I could definitely see us going that direction if we need to sign another player if we're going to try and fit somebody else in the next week and a half.
We got roster spots, but you're right. I mean, he could,
What's
we
that
could
salary cap?
reevaluate in January and add him back to the roster in January, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunate. I guess it happened. I don't know if it happened in the weight room. Did anybody hear like what actually caused the injury? It was early in the morning.
I think his foot got caught in the grass. That's what Lopetegui mentioned in the press conference, that it was a non-contact injury. His foot, I think, just got caught in the grass and it like buckled or something, which is super unfortunate.
Yeah, it's terrible with the World Cup coming up. I mean, he was going to be a huge, important player for the Mexicano team there, and yeah, just unfortunate. Get well soon. We'd love to have you back before the season's end, and I think he was going to play an important role for this squad, and it leaves us with a huge hole in that left wing, kind of with the Campos only there. Big void unless we play Papu. So anyway, back to the game. We started with the lineup that I mentioned. Lamela got the start as well with Rafa Mir up top. Eddie, what did you think about the game there, especially the first half?
Was pretty decent apart from us scoring. There were definitely some good chances, a lot of crosses, but it was one of those games where we're getting a lot of our chances through giveaways from the other team. So that just tells me our pressing was successful and we're just positioned really well to anticipate those passes. Really good chance for Rafa Mir. I think that was our best chance of the game. There's that and a Rekik header from one of the corners that came pretty close. Lamela also hit the post from a tight angle, but that Rafa chance really was the one. It was good combination play between him and Lamela. Lamela, who I think had the best game out there. He just couldn't capitalize. I was hoping to see some of the same in the second half, but that didn't really pan out. I don't know what happened to them in the second half. I think they ran out of gas or something. It just feels like the joy is not there anymore. But the second half, they didn't really come out and press too much. I don't know how you guys felt about that second half, but I didn't really get.
I think it was expected. They came out super aggressive out of the gate. They had this high press, and Oliver Torres was really leading the charge there. Just running all over that the front half of the field, and which was good to see. But you're right. In the second half, they fell off, and honestly, I think they just ran out of gas. Like it was a really hot night in Sevilla. Like these players, like Rekik came off the bench at what, the 75th minute, the 70th minute or something like that, and he was drenched in sweat already just from sitting on the bench. So I think they just ran out of gas. I think it's just the Sevilla heat that was causing that to happen, because it looked like they were still trying to do the same stuff. They weren't as quick on the ball. They weren't as quick to make their runs towards goal, at least for the majority of the second half.
Yeah, Torres had that early effort too that just went wide. I think that was in the 13th minute where he almost scored too. So a lot of opportunities in that first half, and then second half just nothing. Alex, what do you think about the first half? Did it look the same, different, better? What do you think?
It's funny because I think there's so much Lopetegui fatigue that it's really easy to group in all the recent games that have been so frustrating. I did think, to be fair to him, the team did look a lot better in the first half. But even then, there was a point in the first half, and I think it was shortly after the Rafa Mir chance, maybe 20, 30 minutes in, where I just really lost confidence that the team was going to grab a goal. They started to look really frustrated once they didn't see any of those first two or three good chances going. And I felt like the team just needed to turn down the rhythm a notch, and that everything was too tense, too desperate, and really more from a mental standpoint. I thought the team was really frustrated. So I thought that's what they ran into a lot. towards the end of the first half and then in the second half. But to be fair to them, I did think they played a lot better in the first half. It created a lot of chances, possessed it well. To Eddie's point, they pressed really well and won a lot of balls back in dangerous places. So I did think there was some improvement there.
Almost gave up a goal right before half, though, where Papu crossed the ball back over his goal to the new kid in Zanzu. And he kind of had a heavy touch on it, and it just went right to Valladolid, and Bono saved us right there. I mean, it could have been easily 1-0 going into the half. And yeah, I mean, Sevilla 18 total shots, but only 2 on target, which is pretty telling. So had a lot of opportunities, but just, again, can't find the back of the net. Rafa Mir, that goal opportunity that you're talking about should have been a goal. Maybe kind of a tight angle. And Esri in the second half had an opportunity as well with or Montiel to cross it into the back post. And he just arrived late, could get a ball, or I think he did touch it, but it just went over. They come down, they score. You guys talked about Rakitic, and Rakitic comes on, I think, 75th minute, something like that, along with Isco for Papu. And immediately they score. I mean, almost immediately. They dribble right past Campos and Rakitic and puts a good shot on net. Bono can't get to it. They're up 1-0. What do you think about Rakitic and Isco's play? Isco making his debut for the team. Steve, what did you think about their play when they came on?
I didn't like it. I'm a big fan of Rakitic, and it's hard for me to say this. It's kind of like Eddie with his Suso Nation. It's hard for me to be objective here. I didn't like it, but at the same time, the players that they replaced were gassed, and they were bound to make mistakes anyway. Like we could not expect them to play for another 15, 20 minutes. That just, like, at the level that they had been playing for the first half and a half, basically. That sounds really weird to say. But for this first 70 minutes, I don't know who else we would have taken off of the bench to bring on. I think bringing on Rakitic and Isco was the correct choice for who we have on the bench. But I don't know. I would have preferred if we had started Rakitic over Jordan, or Jordan, rather. Let's pronounce that correctly. Simply because I am ready for Jordan to just, go away at this point. But yeah, it was lackluster. It definitely deflated a little bit. But at the same time, we kept the pressure on, and we equalized. So, I mean, we didn't back down. It didn't stop us from pulling back. But all of this is a really long-winded way of saying that I'm just trying to find something positive from these two players.
Yeah,
I'm worried that we've seen the best of Rakitic in his second stint with us. I'm worried that we're not going to see a lot of positives out of him. Isco, I can have a little bit more excitement for, because we've only seen him play for 15, 20 minutes. There's a lot of unknowns yet with that. There's a lot of positive that can come from that, but I think we've seen enough from Rakitic to know that we're not going to get a lot more than what he's shown.
Isco was, you could tell that he hasn't played real football in quite some time. Like, he was not sharp at all. Alex, what did you think about Isco's debut?
I agree with you, Chris. I think you could tell that there was a lot of rust there. I'll admit my bias too. It's not a signing that I was a fan of. But I will be patient, because just because there is so much talent there, and because he only played 20 minutes. So I think that he deserves a fair shot. But no, I wasn't impressed. There was nothing that I saw that gives me any optimism.
Eddie, what do you think about the changes? Papu coming off, Rakitic. Papu came off for Isco came on for Papu in like the 69th minute, I think, 68th minute, and then Telles came on for Acuna 78th, Rakitic on for Torres in the 79th. Prior to that, Jordan came off along with Mir in the 63rd, and Ezri came on as did Ocampos. So, what did you think about the substitutions? We talked about this last game and how unimpactful they were in the last Sevilla match. Didn't seem much different this time, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they added altogether. I guess it's just rotation at this point of the season. I wish you could have taken Lamella off. I didn't want to see him finish 90 minutes with he's the only winger we got. But I mean, he tried. The coach tried to change some things. Maybe he could have played Nesiri and Rafa together, seeing how many crosses we're putting in. That definitely helps, keep the opposing defenders busy. But I guess it just didn't work. I'll give Isco some more time, but I'll echo Alex's sentiment on that. I'm not too excited about Isco because I don't know what to expect. But from what we've seen in the past, he could be a tremendous player. So we'll wait and see. But Rakitic on the goal, I'm not sure what he was doing there. He just left our defenders begging, and yeah, that goal shouldn't have happened, but it happened. Rekik bailing us out with an Asenjo mistake. Sorry, an Asenjo mistake. But yeah, on the substitutions, they didn't really help. I thought Ocampos would be better off the bench, but that doesn't seem the case. I don't know where his head is at either, because that rash tackle he did right in front of the Valladolid bench is so you really don't want you really don't want to go anywhere. Like in case Monchi was working on something, he's trying to make it unattractive for him to go anywhere else. But I don't know. Maybe that's just where the team is at mentally, because Acuna tends to lose his temper as well. But there's reports saying he might be suspended for 4 games, depending on how severe they see what he did off the bench there. But I don't know. That's just where Sevilla is right now. I think Jordan's game is kind of emblematic of where we're at with how we're playing. We could be good, but we're not playing well right now.
Yeah, we got a couple referee gifts, in my opinion.
Oh yes,
the penalty. I can't remember exactly what point of that in the game, but
it's like 10 minutes in.
It was really early, right? And to me, it was a clear penalty. I thought it was a penalty, and I was actually really kind of upset that they didn't get that penalty called, because I want the league to be consistent, and I want the refs to be consistent, and they're terrible. They're just unbelievably terrible across the board, and it's frustrating. The Betis match the day after, the refereeing was atrocious in that game. 2 penalties to Betis that probably weren't, and just 15 total yellow cards in that game. Just unbelievable, horrible refereeing. But yeah, we got lucky with the no call on the penalty, and then some said red maybe on Ocampos.
He didn't touch him.
It was close. Yeah, I didn't think it was a red, but definitely it could have been. Some refs would have called it, and we got lucky for a change on ref decisions. So, as Eddie mentioned, Rekik in the 86th minute bails us out, along with Senjo with I don't know what the hell was happening with those guys. That was terrible goalkeeping.
I want to pause there for a minute and say, just from a sporting perspective, that goal, sure, it got us the point, got us the tie, it got us out of the bottom of the league. But I feel really bad for Asenjo on that. That was just a blunder from he had been playing really well all game. He playing very, very well. Had a lot of great saves. He was directing his back line really well, and you hate to see you hate to see a goal like that where it's just such an obvious like brain fart moment, and like I would much rather have had like a brilliant goal off of a corner, or
But
like
that,
a, the last time we played them when Bono scored for us to tie it up in the at the end of the game,
you're
like
right.
like where it's just like you don't watch it and you just like cringe because it's just so painful. So I feel really bad for him there.
But that's what he does. Like that's what he did with Villarreal. Like that's his game. So
Yeah, but
they
like
have
this
to
was his
expect
like
it.
up until that point, like he played 86 minutes of really good football from the goalkeeping position, and
That's how he is.
that's just too bad.
That's his game. But kudos to Rekik. I mean, he put it in the back of the net. It's something our strikers can't figure out how to do. So kudos to him. His first goal was Sevilla, if I'm not mistaken. So really good take for him to get us there. And so Sevilla manage a point. We're currently 11th in the league, and some of our direct rivals that we would consider for fourth place are on 6 points. So you've got Betis, Villarreal, both sitting on 6 points. Osasuna's on 6 points. Real Madrid 6 points. It doesn't look good for us early on, and with our play, also with the body language. I don't know if you guys watch the behind the scenes that the team does. They put up on YouTube. But to me, that's very telling on where the team is, because you see like body language and emotions after the game.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And there's a rumor that's kind of been circulating since the end of last season. I don't know if you guys have heard it or agree with it, but that specifically the Argentinian clan, for lack of a better word, but the Argentinian players and Acuna and Ocampos especially are really unhappy with Lopetegui. And, I don't know if that's true. When clubs don't win, there's always these types of rumors that surface. I will say, though, to Chris's point, the body language is concerning to me. Like on a lot of these players throughout the game, after the game, like there's just no, like what Eddie said earlier, like there's just no joy in the club right now. And I think that's a big problem.
Yeah. Normally after the game, you'll see Lopetegui or Pepe Castro up there on the, right in front of the locker room area, congratulating them or patting them on the back or something when they come in. And I didn't see them out there this go around. They, the young Del Nido guy, the vice president, he was there, and some other guy that I wasn't familiar with, but the other folks were just wearing around, and they didn't seem like they weren't mad. The only player that I saw walk in that was mad was Jesus Navas. You could tell he was very annoyed, whether that was because he didn't play or because he's the captain of the team and was really pissed at the team. Like, I don't know, but he was the only one that, to me, that looked upset. Everybody else was just kind of not happy, not mad, just going through the motions. And that's kind of what I see from this team, is just kind of going through the motions, I think. And I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'm glad, Alex, you saw that, because I think it's telling, in my opinion.
I also sensed, and I don't know if you guys saw the post-game press conference at all, but I sensed a little bit of resignation from Lopetegui. Like, I think Lopetegui is typically like a pretty, hard-headed guy, and after the games, if there's a tough result, like the competitive side of him will come out and he'll, find a reasoning for that, either some excuse or a legitimate reason. But this past press conference, I saw a lot more resignation, just kind of like, I'm out of solutions. I don't know. That may be a little unfair, but that's the impression that I got.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And quite honestly, with the game on Friday, I don't think that I don't think that really the result at all was Lopetegui's fault. And that I think Lopetegui probably managed one of his better games that he's managed for us in the last couple of years on Friday. But we didn't have the players on the bench that fit what we needed to do for substitutions, and we didn't like the lack of quality in our forwards and a lack of an out-and-out striker was telling. And that is not necessarily on Lopetegui. Like Lopetegui had them out there. He had them prepared to start the first 20 minutes. And I said this a little bit before we started recording, but the first 20 minutes of this game were some of the most exciting Sevilla football that we've seen in the last couple of years. We were attacking with a very high press, and it paid off. We had a lot of opportunities that we just couldn't capitalize on. And when it got to the point where our players were getting burnt out, and it was obvious that like we didn't want to necessarily make changes right at halftime, but our players were like, I don't know if it was the heat was getting at them, or if they were just not in shape or whatnot. We scaled that back. Lopetegui pulled that back and then made some subs and handled things there. But I feel like he played the hand that he was dealt pretty well. But we need to either move on from Lopetegui, which I think is the best way to go at this point. Move on from Lopetegui and just start fresh with this group of players with somebody else that might have a different philosophy. Or we need to spend the next week and a half and actually get him the damn players that he's wanted. Like he requested, like when they had the whole spiel last year of will he stay or will he go? Like one of the contingencies that he gave Monchi in a press conference, like that was released, like from, I forget who it was. There was 2 or 3 different people, like journalists that mentioned this, that Lopetegui was wanting to leave. And the only reason he was staying was contingent on the fact that they would rework the entire locker room so that it would fit his style of play more. And I was actually kind of excited to see that because I generally like the style of play that Lopetegui has as a philosophy. I don't like the way he's executed it with us. But then that didn't happen. The only thing that happened with that is like we sold our 2 starting center backs, which was like the staple of his, like that was what kind of made that entire philosophy tick. So yeah, I can see why Lopetegui would be resigned and would be just burnt out and would not want to do this. Like he hasn't been what we need him to be.
I hear and I heard him say this, but all those players minus what Navas were players that brought in while Lopetegui was here. So
yeah,
these are his players. Like these are the players he wanted from the get-go. Like I look at that as an excuse, right? And I think there's stuff that's flying out, and it's hard to tell if it's rumors or not. But they're talking about a $12 million buyout on Lopetegui's contract because they did renew him just last year or something for 2 more seasons. So to get rid of Lopetegui is going to cost a lot of money. And I think that's probably why he still was the manager this summer. He didn't find an offer that was willing to buy out his contract or whatever. And we didn't want to throw money away, especially if he's going to get us 4th place every year. But I think we're a little naive in thinking that the same quality of players that we had, losing 2 of our best players was going to get us 4th place. So it's an interesting. I don't know. Eddie, do you think? Go ahead.
Let me just finish this up here. I don't want to make this come across as like a Lopetegui apologist here. I don't think he's right for this team anymore. I think we should move on from him. We should have moved on from him probably before the end of the season last year. I'm not agreeing with any of this. I just of what I said here. What I'm saying is that I can see that Lopetegui might feel this way, and that might be playing into some of the moods that he's in or whatnot. That being said, I can still recognize, and I do believe that he did, like, despite all of this, I believe he managed the game on Friday probably the best that we've seen him manage, at the very least, in the 2022 calendar year. It was well done in that aspect, and it was kind of a breath of fresh air at that point. But changes still need to be made. We still need to get better. We still need to do something to spark anything at this point. So that's where I stand. Like I don't want to make it sound like I'm defending him up and down.
Eddie, do you think he got the game right? I mean, just to be counterpoint, do you think Lopetegui had a good match?
Well, I think it was all right. I'm not sure there's much he could have done, but it's similar to my comment I said about the Madrid game last season. That game wasn't really his fault specifically, but he kind of cultivated this team, and the way they played is kind of his fault ultimately because it's been going this way. The lack of creativity or the play in the final third. I mean, there's only so much a coach can do about how players play in the final third, but it's always crosses and not even accurate ones at that. I mean, it's fine if you play a lot of crosses. I mean, Real Madrid won a title that way with Zidane, but at least be accurate with him. But I don't think it was too much his fault. But you look at this and it's we're playing the style of play that he wants to. There was neither an overhaul nor a new coach, so we're gonna get the same thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's I think you got it right early on, right? Like the lineup was great. We didn't see a lot of crosses early on. We saw some link up play, which we never see up top. With Lamela and Mir, we never see that kind of play. So
yeah.
It was positive in the very beginning, and then we regressed into those crosses and passing back and laziness. And Jordan started off great in this game. I mean, maybe not great, but he had a really good maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then he regressed quickly too. What's that?
A little more than that.
Okay,
a solid 40 until that missed pass to Papu.
All right. But to that point, I don't think he had a great game. I thought he got the starting lineup right, and from then on, it was a disaster with changes and everything. But I want to get into this because I thought it was an interesting tweet. Our friend Prince of Pen Sevilla, it's at Sevillista on Twitter. He's a great follow. He doesn't have a lot of followers, but he puts out a lot of good information, a lot of interesting thoughts. I think I can't remember what country he's from, but I don't want to get it wrong, so don't quote me. Look him up, follow him. He's a good follower or follow. But he posted this after the game. He says, "I don't understand why everybody is surprised by this rusty start, as if this team wasn't struggling at the end of last season and did show a promising finish." I think he meant to say it didn't show a promising. Everyone just completely forgot about how we almost lost Champions League. Chair, calm down. This team is in a transitioning mode. Patience. I personally agree with the first part. Yeah, and you said it. Nothing's changed really, right? Like no really new players. We lost our two center backs and replaced those, but that's about it. I don't agree with the transitioning mode. I don't think this team's transitioning. I think it's more of the same for now. Maybe Monty's got something up his sleeve in the last 11 days or whatever it is of the transfer window. I don't personally think that's happening, but maybe. And then patience. I don't think we can be patient. Like, I think we have to be patient at this point because you can't blow it up immediately or like right now. Like, it's too late in the window to do that. You've already made this decision, this direction, and we might not have the money to make that decision. So, yeah, I guess we have to be a little patient, but
it doesn't mean we have to be happy about it.
Can we? And the fans are happy about it. I mean, they booed the team and Lopetegui off the field after the match. So, do you think this team's in a transitioning mode, Alex? What do you make by that tweet? What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure about a transitionary mode. I think it's an odd situation to me when I look at it because it feels like neither side wants to really be in this situation. And by neither side, I mean Lopetegui or the club. It feels like in May or June, they both wanted to part ways, but for whatever reason, they did it. And that whatever reason is probably that Lopetegui didn't get an offer, or at least an offer that he felt was better than Sevilla, and Sevilla didn't want to buy out his contract. And so they kind of agreed to, continue the marriage, even though both sides were unhappy. And I feel like that's always, or usually, a recipe for disaster. I think it's probably hard enough to win, even with both sides are on the same page. But when you have this situation where it really feels like both sides are tugging in opposite directions, like what Steve was saying earlier. I mean, and I'm not trying to place blame on one side or the other, but I do think that Lopetegui, from his perspective, he probably feels like the players he needs or wants haven't been brought. Not saying I agree with that, but I think he genuinely feels like when you listen to a lot of journalists in Madrid who are close to Lopetegui and defend his interest per se, they espouse that view a lot, that Monchi has not brought him the players that he wanted or that he thinks he needed to play the way he wants to. And then I think the club, and Monchi particularly, probably feels the opposite way. They feel like there's a lot of good players on the squad and that he's not getting the best out of them. And so I think ultimately you have, again, the situation where neither side is really happy with the other, but they're just doing it because there's no exit. And so I think eventually probably an exit will need to be found. I just don't know what that looks like at this point.
It's a really good point. Eddie, thoughts on that?
Patience. The window's not over yet. Monchi's still working. I don't know how much you're gonna get done in the next 10 days or so. But
we got Tank in 48 hours, so
exactly. But there's definitely some specific needs. Left wing. I'm not sure how much they're going to change the midfield because, it's crucial that they do, but I'm not sure if there'll be enough time, whether to get players out and bring players in. But you need at least something different in that midfield. I'm not sure how true it is that we're going for Luis Alberto, but maybe a Campagna, because truthfully, I think he's the closest thing to Banega that we could get in terms of building from deep. But yeah, we definitely need a left winger. I'm pretty sure Monchi's working on getting an attacker. So we'll see. Patience in that regard. And the overall play, sure, you could be patient, but don't be surprised if it's exactly the same again, because we know how he wants to play and we know how it's been. So
we talked about it every game last year, so we know exactly what it's
supposed to be. It's supposed to be a transition period, but it's
amen.
It's
amen.
It's stalling. I feel
we should be. We should be in a transition period.
Do you think we're cash strapped? Like, do you think there's a money issue? Maybe we don't see it, but
limited a little bit. Yeah,
I'm starting to think there's some sort of a cash flow problem.
It certainly feels that way. I don't know if it is actually that way, but it feels that way based off the lack of movement.
Yeah, we lost. We gained 80 million euros in transfers, right? Like, we're positive 80 million, and that money's just kind of stale right now. Well, actually, I guess it's 60 now that we bought an Enzu, but
we are not a large club financially. We're not like Real Madrid or Barcelona, where they could conceivably throw money at almost every player on the planet and build this roster. They wouldn't be able to register them. You're seeing this with Barcelona. They wouldn't be able to register them, but they could pay their salaries. Like, they have the financial ability to pay their salaries. We are not in that situation. Like, we need sales of players. We need butts in seats in the Sanchez Pizjuan to make money, and to we don't have large investment accounts. We don't have a media, like a TV station, the media that we can sell for like 25% rights and pull a lever for, like that's tied up there. We don't have that footprint. And if we have things that, like a coach who has a $12 million buyout clause, that maybe we're considering triggering that buyout clause and having him leave. There was talk last year. We talked about it quite a bit on the forums, and we touched on it here in the podcast, where there's massive renovations that need to be done to our stadium. And I think a lot of that was brought to a head when they showcased our stadium at the Europa League finals, and it wasn't the best look for us. Like, if you look just at the transfers, sure, we might be in a great spot, but we don't know what the financial situation and the investment situation for this club is. And there might be things off of the field that we need to put money into, that the board is saying, no, we need to make $50 million upgrades to the Sanchez Pizjuan, or we could lose some kind of licensing, or we could lose, like, certain parts of the stadium might not be able to be filled, and we might lose ticket revenue for that. Like, there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes that we need this transfer money to also supplement, because we don't have the cash on hand that teams like Real Madrid have, that, or we don't have a backup stadium that we can just move into like Real Madrid did when they were renovating the Bernabeu. Like we don't have those resources. So yeah,
or the money could be going right into the board members' pockets. Like, that's the other thing that we don't know, right?
That could also be happening, but I need to have a more positive outlook on that. And,
sure,
this is a very scary
you have to
topic.
trust, right? Like, I mean, we know our history with shady board members, but I mean, you do have to trust in the team that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
like, all that's to say, like, one way or another, we can't tell. Like, we can't just look at this and say, like, yes, we have a cash problem, or no, we don't. It's a definite possibility, but unless we were a publicly traded company where we have these like quarterly income, like finance reports and stuff like that are released, then we won't be able to see that, and that's just kind of the state that we're in right now.
I would add one thing. Sorry, Eddie, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You can continue. It's okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one quick thing to that. I agree with everything Steve said, by the way, but I would also add that people forget, going into the season, when Sevilla's in Champions League, the club budgets, and by the way, I'm not agreeing with this approach, but this is a reality. The club budgets for getting out of the group stage. And so when that didn't happen last year, that put a dent of about, I think, 15 to 20 million euros into the budget. So you're already starting at a net negative. And just by way of example, take for instance, the Koundé sale, whatever you collect for him, right, 50 plus variables, but we'll just stick with the 50. You have to deduct first the 20% that goes to Bordeaux, and then you have to pay off the net negative from exiting in the group stage. And so you're already taking out, what, I don't know, probably 20%. My math is very rough. That's why I'm a lawyer. But I think that's like 8 or 10 million plus 20 million from Champions League. You're already looking at subtracting about 30 million from the Koundé sale. So people, those are rough numbers. But the point is, people think that, okay, we sold Koundé for 50 million. We can buy, 2 or 3 players for 50 million. That's not exactly how it works. We have to be a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, you're right on that. You actually stole my thunder on the Champions League's exit last year, and I think our planning is critical for getting out of the group stage this year, which seems like a tall test right now. Any thoughts on what we were just talking about?
Yeah, that group stage exit was a bigger deal than it appeared to be. But just to contrast real quick from last season, when we transferred out Brian Hill real early, we had made signings not much time after that. So this season, when we let Diego Carlos go to the Premier League, we didn't do anything with that. I'm not sure if that transfer was to balance the books from the previous year. Perhaps that's why it was done so early. But it seemed like we didn't use any of that to acquire any players. So that kind of signaled to me that, okay, it might go differently this season because we didn't let these guys go in previous seasons. Yeah, the lack of moves kind of says that as well, but I'm pretty sure there's something going on financially as well.
And the
Yeah,
lack of
really.
moves also, like it's a pretty congested market too. If you look at that, like this off season has been pretty crazy just in terms of transfer all across Europe. So we might just be having more competition as well. Like there's anything that
Sure.
can happen there.
Yeah, you got bottom of the table teams in the Premier League
And
spending
look at
crazy amount of money.
Nottingham Forest. Yeah, it's just like
Right,
what?
like just and those players might have been our way in the past, but just
Yeah.
no way we can compete with that. So
Before we move on
anyway,
from this really quick, I just want to echo what Eddie said. We should be in a transition period right now, and we are not. And I think that is the frustrating part.
yeah,
We should be either getting better as a team under Lopetegui or transitioning to a different coach. And that didn't happen, and it's more of the same. So yes, like we need to be patient as a fan base. But that doesn't mean we need to be happy about being patient. We can still be irate when we're watching these games, as long as we know that, okay, like this is going to be like our life as a Sevillista or Stevieista, or however you want to say it, for the near future, because
yeah.
like we need to temper our expectations until we see some evidence that change is on the way. And I haven't seen that. I don't know about the three of you, but I haven't
Yeah.
seen any evidence that meaningful change is coming anytime soon.
And that's what, like, the first part of that statement, like, I don't think anybody, well, at least Sevilla fans, I don't know that anybody's surprised from our start. Like, I think we all had reservations. Like, ICVA still said, there's a lot of people surprised by this rusty start. I don't know that I was surprised. I wasn't expecting much, to be honest. So I was expecting more of the same, and that's what we've gotten so far. So anyway, switching gears, it's all doom and gloom here right now, but let's talk about some positives. And positive to me is, even though this team isn't as fun to watch sometimes, but something's happened in the last few years where I'm seeing a lot more English speaking accounts talking about Sevilla online. And Alex is one of those guys on Twitter, and that's one reason I asked him to come on. Alex, I'll let you promote your Twitter handle there, but I wanted to get him on and just talk about how he became a Sevilla fan, and what makes him drive to continue talking about this club. So, Alex, if you could introduce yourself, make sure you hit that Twitter handle, because we want to promote everybody we can. And how did you become a Sevilla fan? All that stuff. Let us hear it.
Sure. Thanks. So Twitter handle is Ale Alejandro 214, just like the Lady Gaga song. And the name is in MBC. But so my dad is from Spain. He's from a small town about 45 minutes from Sevilla. So that's my connection to Spain and to the club. I actually have an uncle who played in Sevilla's youth academy. But never made it to the first team. This was a while back in the 60s. But I have several family members who are Sevilla fans. I have some Betis family members too, unfortunately. But that's the connection to Sevilla, and my mom's American, so I grew up in the United States as well, but I've just always kept up with the team, and I love connecting. Twitter to me, I've had people, mock Twitter a lot, but I've had Twitter since I think 2009 or 10, and I think it's a great way to connect with other fans and transfer market news and reactions to games and all of the above. So it's been nice to see how many other fans there are in the U.S. and just everywhere.
Yeah. So, have you been to? I mean, I'm assuming you've been to Sevilla and to some games. You want to talk about that a little bit? Maybe some of the matches you've been to.
Yeah. So actually, the first Sevilla match I ever went to, I was a little kid. It was Sevilla Sao Paulo, and it was the year after Sevilla got promoted from second division. And it was a summer tournament, so it was a friendly. But that was the first time I ever set foot in the stadium. And been to a bunch of games since then. I think the coolest game I went to, which was actually a loss, was the Euro Derby game with Betis in the Europa League. I was actually at that game, and I don't know if you guys remember, we lost that leg 2-0, but then came back the second leg, which I was not at that game, but we ended up winning in PKs and going on to win that Europa League. So that was the coolest game I was a part of, even though we lost, unfortunately. But yeah, the Sevilla connection's awesome. It's really an awesome club. For anyone looking to support like a club in Spain that's not Real Madrid or Barcelona, I think it's a great option because it's a club with a ton of history. I mean, Recreativo Huelva fans claim that they're the oldest club, but I think Sevilla is either the oldest or the second oldest. So you're talking about over 100 years of history, great fan base, good youth system and academy, and really a club. One of the main things I like about Sevilla is it's a club that always wants to grow and they always want to do better. And in my lifetime, been super blessed because they've grown a bunch and won a bunch of titles and done things that when I was a kid I thought were totally like unimaginable given their budget and their history. So I think it's an awesome club to support and welcome anybody that wants to come aboard.
That's awesome. That Betis game had to be fun. That second leg was unbelievable, and then making all their fans cry when we won in PKs, that was awesome too. I can't remember the details of that. Was that? I don't even remember.
It was actually funny enough. Betis got relegated that year. They were in Europa League that year because the previous year they had done well, but they were not a very strong team that year at all. But they played well, but we played really poorly the game I went to, and they outplayed us and they took a result home, and everybody thought it was over. I mean that's what kind of made it so great. Everybody really thought that tie was over, and Unai Emery I thought had a really strong approach going into the second leg, and they pulled it off and went into PKs. And what's crazy is we ended up winning the Europa League that year. That was the first one of the three that Unai Emery won, when the one where we beat Benfica in PKs in the final.
Yeah, wasn't that where Reyes scored like in the first 15 seconds of the game or something, the away match at Betis? I might be wrong on that, but
it's like the 4th minute he scored.
It was early, right?
He had another derby where he scored in the first like 15 seconds. You're right, but I think that was a league derby. I think we won that one like 5-1, and that was the one with right. Michel as manager. But yeah, that was a crazy game too. I was not at that one, but that was a crazy game.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, who would you say your favorite player is over the years?
I'd have to say Dani Alves. I love him as a player. I think I personally think he's the best right back to ever play football, and so I think it's pretty cool to be able to say that you had a player that was the best ever at his position, or at least in the conversation. And I just love him as a guy. Like the way he's represented Sevilla, even after leaving, has been really, really positive. So I like Dani Alves a lot. I would have to say probably him, but there's so many.
That's a great shot. We don't get that very often, but you're right. And a player that changed that position, really, I think, the right back, definitely.
Agreed.
Yeah, just changed that position. Eddie, Steve, any questions for Alex?
I don't have any questions. I'm just thrilled that you were able to join us, Alex. We've been interacting on Twitter for a long time now.
Yeah, thanks,
and just to have you here and chat with you has been great. Thanks for joining us.
It's awesome. My wife gets so tired of me talking about Sevilla, so it's nice to be able to get on here and talk to you guys and like-minded people. So it's really cool. I love that you guys are doing this. By the way, and I don't know this for a certainty, but I'm sure the club has seen what you guys are doing and they love it too, because in the objective of trying to grow the brand and everything, this is the type of thing that really helps the club grow. So I think it's a small piece of the puzzle, but it's really, really cool what you guys are doing.
Hopefully they throw us a ball every now and again and get us some players or something on to have an interview. That would be awesome. But
Or you could just bring Daniel back for a conversation.
I could get Daniel probably. Yeah. He's too busy giving interviews to the new kid. He was actually the one that did that interview. They actually sent it to me on WhatsApp the night that they finished it up, and it was pretty cool. He was very proud of that. So good job, Daniel. Shout out to the guy that runs the Sevilla English channel there on Twitter.
It's 2 podcasts in a row we've shouted out Daniel McGinnis. So,
man, they definitely owe us now. Jeez.
Yeah, right.
Let
us be the one to break the news of Lopetegui. Yeah.
Just to pick Alex's brain a little bit on this season, do you think the competition for fourth is much stronger? I know it's still early doors. Yeah, Villarreal has won 2 games, but do you seriously think that gap closed a little bit with Betis, Villarreal, Real Sociedad, and whoever else is out there?
I do. Honestly, Villarreal terrifies me. I think they had a great transfer market. The one thing I will say is Unai Emery always seems like such a cup manager more than a league manager. So hopefully that will play out this year. But, watching the first 2 matches, they look very strong and they look like everything we're not, like physical, fast, really great strikers. So they're going to be really tough. And Betis looks really good too. So it's going to be, it's funny going into last year, and we've had to readjust expectations, I think, but I thought Sevilla had a legitimate chance to challenge for the title. What I wasn't expecting was Real Madrid to almost get to 90 points. I thought they would have a weaker year. But this year I view it totally different. I think 4th place would almost be a miracle at this point. No, not an actual miracle, but I definitely think 4th place has to be the realistic goal. And I think Villarreal and Betis particularly are going to be really strong. Real Sociedad, not as much. I'm not as big a fan of their transfer window, but they're great club, very well run, great academy. So all the respect in the world for them. But I definitely think Villarreal and Betis are the strongest challengers.
Okay. And perhaps a general question for you guys. Do you think there's a player out there that Mochi could get to actually change your outlook on how the season is going to go? Like, say he brings Banega back or something.
That's a good question.
I want to follow that up with another question too. But to that point, I said it on Twitter today too. I think a Campagna is needed. There was somebody that was passing around a chart that showed progressive passing, and all of our guys are like really negative in that forte, progressive passing. Campana's on that really far end of the chart, passing forward. But I don't think you can get it alone with them, because especially the Corona's out, I think we're missing the speed element that I think we did not address in the offseason. We didn't get faster. And that's one thing that you see any of those Champions League teams that we played that just gave us fits last year. They were super quick. I think we're missing that player that can get in behind a defense. And I think that needs to come on the left wing if we can find that person. I don't know who that is, but I think we need those 2 in combination. Somebody that can pick out a pass and get it over the top. And then a player that's willing to run besides Nesri. He's probably the only guy that really can get in behind. And
he can't do anything with the ball once he gets behind them. That's the thing.
That was a given. We know that. That's what I mean. We need that other player. So that's my 2 thoughts. I don't want to derail that part of the conversation, but I was going to ask, on the negative side of the transfer window, what could Monchi do that could hurt this team even more? By getting rid of a player or getting rid of a manager? Is there something that could really impact negatively the squad? So think about that. Steve, you want to answer Eddie's question first?
Eddie, your question? No, there is no single player in the world right now that I think Monchi could bring in and change my expectations and lift my spirits for this, because we have so many holes. Like, sure, if in the next week and a half he brought in 4 new players that plug the holes that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks, that might change it. But one single player, no, like that player can't play all 10 outfield positions. Like there's so many things here, and until I see, let me back up here. So when you have conversations about a player coming in to completely change the fortunes of a team or make the difference and push them over the edge, that always comes along with the other players on the pitch also playing to the best of their ability. And that one player that makes the difference is like the cherry on top that pushes things over. And like, I don't have faith in the other players on the field right now to do that. I think that there's, so yeah, no, I don't think there's a single player. Chris, to answer your question, something negative, this might seem counterproductive or counterintuitive based on the conversations that we've been having for the last 6 months. I think in the immediacy, if we get rid of Lopetegui, we are not going to have much success at all this year. I think we will be set up in a better spot for success going forward. But the way that this team is built and the inability for us in the past to bring in interim managers during the season and have them do much of anything, I think that if we do get rid of Lopetegui, we need to set the expectation that whoever we bring in immediately is not going to be the long-term solution, and we could find ourselves in Conference League or lower this year, and we would have to accept that. That would be something that we could be fine, like we would need to be fine with the eye towards the future. If we keep Lopetegui around, I don't know right now if we're going to finish 4th with Lopetegui. I don't have much faith in us finishing 4th with Lopetegui, but I think that 5th, 6th, or 7th is still very much in the realm of possibility with him. And so it's just a matter of, for this season, I think if our goal is to play in Europe at all, I think getting rid of Lopetegui would be a mistake. But going forward, like, I think that I would be okay sacrificing Europe for next year if it meant that we were taking steps forward without Lopetegui. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So that's another interesting thought. Alex, players you think need to come in, or type of players, if not specific, and then something that Monchi could do that would negatively hurt the team?
I tend to agree with Steve. I'm not sure there's one particular player that could come in and solve this. I mean, I guess if I had to say one, and not to be overly simplistic, but strikers always are just more important just because they're the ones that bag the goals. So, if you were to bring in Raul de Tomas or somebody like that who could guarantee you 20, 25 goals, that could make the difference. But I'm pretty skeptical. In terms of messing things up, honestly, keeping Lopetegui, I think the longer this drags on, it's not just the results that become a problem, but the valuation of your players. Like, if your players aren't in form, and by the way, that is not necessarily Lopetegui's fault. The players have to be, good professionals too. But the reality is, a lot of their values right now are not where they should be or not where they were. And the longer that goes on, it becomes a bigger problem in the January transfer window and the next summer transfer window, because then it becomes even harder. Like, and Steve brought this up earlier, we needed a big transition and a overhaul this summer, and it didn't happen. That's only going to be more difficult next summer the longer that this goes on. So I think the biggest mistake is to let this drag out, in my opinion.
Do you think we would see any kind of immediate success from a replacement for him, or do you think we would be in a situation where we just kind of have to be okay with mediocrity until until we can get some kind of stable management situation going?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a tough one too. I think it depends on the manager. I mean, if you hit on the manager, I personally think there's enough talent on the squad to turn things around. I think the squad definitely has deficiencies. So I don't think it's all Lopetegui's fault by any means, but I do think there's a lot of good players on the squad, and I think if you hit on the manager, you could turn things around. So that's my positive note that I'll leave with on the podcast, just because don't want to be overly negative. I genuinely believe in Munchie. I believe in a lot of the players on the squad, and I think, like I said, I think if you hit on the manager, I think you could turn things around.
Alex, you just counteracted like everything that I said about Lopetegui and how getting rid of him would be a mistake. But I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. It's which sounds, like I said, counterintuitive, but I guess I don't have a lot of faith in bringing in a new manager and our ability to find a new manager right away. But I still think that we should get rid of him and just brace ourselves for a disappointing year and then build for the future. But
Well, the timing is odd. I'll definitely give you that. I mean, you
yeah,
don't want to start a season and in September already be firing the manager. So I definitely think that it doesn't make the club look like a serious club
yeah,
when you're firing a manager in September. I will say this, and I mentioned this in the prediction audio that I sent Chris. I think this is a unique year with the World Cup being in the winter. So you're going to have basically a over a month dead period that's kind of going to dovetail with the January transfer market. Not exactly, but almost back to back. And so if you're ever going to fire a manager mid-season, this might be the year to do it. And I think, Munchie's not a dumb guy. I think he knows that. And I think, in the back of his head, he's got to have given that some thought.
at the end of the day, at least we're not Manchester United. So there's that.
Alex,
Amen.
I remember that from the podcast. That was a really good point that you made about the World Cup, and I think that puts even more pressure right now because the players are going to be demanding that they make their World Cup squads, and you would think that would reflect in their performance on the field, but we've got a lot of Argentinians there that are not really pulling their weight right now. So I don't know if we're going to see any of them on the World Cup squad. So it's interesting.
Who's not pulling their weight?
Ocampos, Montiel. Okay, two of the five. Even Papu. Okay, Papu. I'll say it too. I mean, Papu almost cost a goal yesterday, and he hasn't provided. Like, he hasn't done anything yet. Lamella's the only one that's really done anything. Acuna, okay, he's played decent, but he hasn't produced either. So
The way this is going, he might wind up suspended until the World Cup anyway. So
all of them, Eddie, like nobody, right?
Oh man, it's only 2 games. I'll reserve judgment on that.
But true, yeah, of course.
I just wanted you to name some names. That's all.
You just wanted me to call out our first squad. I see how it is. So Eddie, answer your own question and then follow up with mine if you would. I'm curious about your thoughts.
Similarly to how I wanted to see Tecatito last season, at the start of the season, you bring in a player like that. I've been thinking about Quincy Promise just because of how well he plays with the ball. I don't think Munchie's gonna, go back into that. It wasn't even his signing to begin with, but a player like that could, make opposition defenders drop, break their ankles. You know what I mean? But maybe that was in poor taste. Sorry, but I don't know. A player that could, totally own the wing. And it doesn't have to see how Papa was doing, kept going back into the middle, kind of messing with Oliver's space. But thankfully, Oliver understands that, and he went to the other wing where there was space. So he kind of knows where to position himself. But if we bring in a good attacker, a Martial type, not Martial specifically, but someone of that caliber. But I don't know who's available. So, yeah, if Monchi, he surprised me with this Nyanzu signing.
Yeah.
And apparently he wasn't really available until a week or two prior, or until recently. So it was kind of a Monchi style signing. So if you could do something similar in the attacking positions, then yeah, it might change my outlook.
I don't know if Promise is available. Isn't he going to jail for murder or something?
I don't know about that, but I think he's just chilling over there in Russia, man. I don't know.
There you go. I think the worst thing we could do right now is get rid of Oliver Torres. I know a lot of people are
Yes.
yeah, we lost Alex there for a second. Hopefully he comes back. I think getting rid of Oliver Torres would be a mistake. I know you're not the biggest fan, but I think he's the only impactful midfielder we have right now that's at least being played in a position that he can make an impact. You know what I mean? I think Papu could make an impact if he was given the proper position and channels to do that. But
he was definitely the most impactful last Friday.
What's up?
He was definitely the most impactful on Friday.
Yeah. In that last preseason game, he was the most impactful in my opinion. But
honestly,
anyway.
I would, at this point with him, I either want to keep him and play him and actually give him the starting, maybe not starting time, but give him the minutes, give him meaningful minutes so that we can actually get him on the pitch and have him make those impactful plays and have his presence be felt. Or I just want to cut the cord and get it over with and transfer him out. Like having him on the bench, or not even on the bench, having him on the roster but not on the team sheet is incredibly frustrating. Like it's like if you're gonna have a player that is talented like that and not use him because I don't know if Lopetegui just doesn't like him for whatever reason or he doesn't fit with what Lopetegui wants to do. I don't know, but it seems like every time he comes onto the pitch, he has this energy with him that brings up the other players around him too, and it's frustrating. It's really really frustrating because you can't help but think that something is being wasted by not having him on the pitch. And if we're not going to use him, then we should just sell him.
I just think he made himself look good for whichever team he's going to next. Personally, I don't think he brings enough for that position. He does bring good things, but it doesn't always happen. I don't know what Lopetegui is looking for, because I think part of this is on him, but I don't think it's working for both parties. So the midfield definitely needs something. But vamos a ver. There's 10 days left in the transfer market. Monchi's working. They might get a replacement for Tecatito, but they're working on it.
Yeah, 48 hours to transfer. That's 5 new players. Like we got plenty of time.
I'm just waiting on the next exclusive from Fabrizio, and yeah, man, we rolling.
See what happens.
Cristiano Ronaldo coming in.
Oh my gosh!
No, that would have a negative effect. Yes,
negative effect if we got CR7. Yeah, both financially and probably locker room.
Oof. Maybe not so negative on a financial standpoint, but well, depending on how you look at it, you know,
he might sell shirts.
Yeah, it brings more eyeballs, but
true.
Yeah, that salary, man.
Yeah. So Sevilla's back on the pitch Saturday, August 27th, 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's 10 p.m. there in Sevilla. Wow. Really late game. Welcome back to the first tee or first whatever I'm trying to say. Welcome back to La Liga, Almeria. Another Andalusia team there that we get to face. Going to be interesting. I think they play today, later today, Monday. We're recording this on Sunday night. So they haven't played their second match yet. They play a little later. They did lose their first match. So, it's a good opportunity for us to get on a winning streak. Hopefully, maybe not, but we need to get points here. If they don't capture points here, I think things are going to start I think there's going to be some motion of some sort happening. It's not going to be fun to be in that front office, that's for sure.
So
Alex,
do you want there to be points? Do you want us to win, or would you rather us tie and then fire Lopetegui?
I will never root against my team. Never, right?
Okay.
Never in my life will I ever root against this team. If it was an NFL club and we had a draft pick, maybe. Why win if you suck? But yeah, there's no benefit for losing. You can still make that transition, even if Lopetegui's great this year. I hope Lopetegui succeeds and does really well, because then the team's going to be great. His stock's going to be high. Somebody can come and take him off our hands, and we can still have our transition that we're talking about. So, winning's the best thing that can happen for this club. It's the one thing that can improve all of our attitudes. But anyway, so we're like on an hour and 20 minutes, so we need to probably wrap it up here. Alex actually had to drop off, so we want to send a thank you for him for joining us. Yes. Really excellent guest there. I'll shoot a link out to his Twitter so you guys can follow him. He's also on Monty's Men. Doesn't post a lot over there, but that's going to change, I'm sure. But really good guest. Eddie, thanks as always. Steve, thanks, man, from your hotel room there. Glad you put pants on.
Come on now. I'm not a schmuck.
Not a schmuck. Anyway, guys, vamos mi Sevilla.
Vamos campeón.
Y nunca te rindas.
Hey, and thanks for watching on YouTube, man. Like we launched that last week. We got a lot of views, a lot of comments. Thanks everybody. Like and subscribe and all that good jazz. So until next week, Monty's Men.